Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into an artifact that is basically about to completely change our entire perspective on ancient history. We're talking about the Cypress Cylinder. Now, for decades, this thing has just been viewed as a baffling, undecipherable piece of clay. But what if we've been looking at it entirely wrong this whole time? What if this isn't just some dead, forgotten language, but actually a highly advanced, three-dimensional cosmic engine? Well, let's unlock the mystery.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with 1. The undeciphered Cypress Cylinder. 2. A 3D toroidal data manifold. 3. The fluidic logic engine. 4. The precessional clock. And finally, 5. The analog life support registry.
Section 1. The undeciphered Cypress Cylinder, the baseline mystery. Because to really understand the mind-bending reality of this thing, we absolutely have to look at the hard archaeological facts first.
So, traditional linguists have basically hit a sheer brick wall with these artifacts. They were found at Nkomi, Cyprus, and these late Bronze Age clay cylinders feature the Cypro-Minoan script dating back to around 1550 BC. But here are the massive decipherment roadblocks we're dealing with. We have absolutely no translation key. There's no bilingual Rosetta Stone to help bridge the gap. Plus, scholars can't even agree on the basic sign inventory. They're still debating if there are 84 or 125 distinct signs. So for standard linguistic analysis, it remains a complete mystery.
And get this, just 500. The largest of these Nkomi cylinders preserves one of the longest continuous texts of this script discovered to date, and it contains fewer than 500 signs. We are talking about a highly compressed data format here, packing maximum operational depth into very minimal space. Obviously, trying to read this thing like a standard book just isn't working.
Section 2. A 3D toroidal data manifold, changing the paradigm. This is where we get to the really exciting part. Because the secret to deciphering the cylinder isn't linguistic at all. It's geometric. Let's contrast two entirely different methods. First, you have standard flat text analysis. This treats the artifact like a flat piece of paper, reading linear two-dimensional strings from left to right, and honestly, that creates a linguistic trap, forcing us to just guess vowels and consonants in a total semantic vacuum. But then we have the VORTX analysis. This framework treats the cylinder as a three-dimensional data manifold. It maps the data not as flat lines, but as a continuous orbital sequence, and doing that actually reveals the raw structural logic of the syntax.
To really visualize this, we need to understand what a toroidal loop is. Simply put, a toroidal loop is a continuous, self-sustaining circular flow where spatial boundaries wrap back onto themselves without any flat margins. Think of a continuous ticker tape wrapped endlessly around a spool, or water flowing around a central core. Because the text is carved entirely around a three-dimensional cylinder, there are literally no true left-to-right margins. The text just wraps continuously around the physical clay.
So how exactly does this 3D shape solve our earlier roadblock? Well, remember that intense debate over whether there are 84 or 125 distinct signs? By locking onto the 3D shape, we start to see that the carving angles create spatial phase shifts. As the scribe's hand moved around the curved clay, the angle of their carving tool naturally changed, meaning many of those supposedly different signs are highly likely just the exact same character, cleverly distorted by the structural stress of carving on a curve. It is a brilliant optical illusion.
Section 3. The fluidic logic engine, mechanics of the manifold. Now we shift our focus from the physical shape of the artifact to its proposed mechanical function as an analog computer.
So the crucial point is how this theoretical engine actually operates. Let's walk through it step by step. Step 1 is the inflow manifold, which basically buffers raw, chaotic environmental data. Step 2 is the phase shift core. You can think of this as the processor, kind of like the intricate gears in a mechanical clockwork, subjecting that buffered data to intense logical pressure in a cavitation reactor to filter it. And finally, step 3 is the terminal anchor, where all that chaotic intake is hardened into an immutable, perfectly stable crystalline matrix.
To summarize the core directives of this engine, it operates via a fluidic or analog feedback loop to actively transform raw environmental entropy into order. It totally prevents data drift by maintaining perfect structural balance, basically creating a closed-loop calculator. It is absolutely mind-blowing to imagine a physical clay object encoding such complex, self-correcting structural logic.
Section 4. The precessional clock, synchronizing the ancient sky. Because this engine doesn't just process data, you guys, It actually tracks deep cosmic time.
25,772. That is the exact length, in years, of the precession of the equinoxes. As the Earth's axis wobbles, the constellations slowly shift their position relative to the vernal equinox over thousands of years, and the layout and logic of our artifact are fundamentally acting as a precessional clock, deeply tied to this grand cosmic cycle.
Let's walk through a timeline to see how this builds. Going all the way back to 11,000 BCE, during the Younger Dryas era, the vernal equinox was in Virgo, and the North Pole was in Hercules. The system aligns perfectly to the specific 13,000-year-old sky map. Now jump to around 1400 CE, which was an era of transcription. Because the sky had drifted due to that precession, later scribes actually had to artificially nudge the calendar, applying a 2-month shift, just to make the ancient logic run properly in their time. And fast forward to today in 2026, modern decipherment uses these specific celestial coordinates to finally synchronize the engine's original clock.
But here is the missing key, the 13th node, known as Ophiuchus or Orpheus. In this system's fluidic logic, this 13th constellation acts as the system override gate and master reset valve. Honestly, without this specific constellation to reset the fluidic pulse, the engine's calculations would just drift right into chaos. By calibrating to this specific stellar configuration, the engine achieves a stable fixed-point reference.
Section 5. Analog Life Support Registry. The final reveal. This is where we uncover exactly why this machine was built 13,000 years ago.
We get to the heart of it with this dramatic output derived from the engine's analysis. The manuscript is not just an archive. It is a survival manual for planetary-scale climate collapse. Just let the sheer weight of that concept sink in for a second. We aren't just looking at history here. This is a desperate engineering imperative designed specifically for human survival.
The engine is specifically calibrated to the catastrophic environmental variables of the Younger Dryas. We're talking about a period marked by an intense, sudden climate reversal and a super rapid return to harsh glacial conditions. One of the specific targets of the engine's crystalline output was a protocol to neutralize severe atmospheric particulate dust loading. I mean, if a civilization possessed this kind of fluidic stabilization technology, they would absolutely need to use it to combat massive environmental instability like that.
Ultimately, what we are really looking at here is a time capsule instrument. Its mechanical purpose is to bridge chaotic atmospheric states, converting high-chaos raw input into stable, high-order survival protocols. It functions as a literal life support registry for a civilization undergoing a forced planetary-scale shift. That is brilliantly engineered endurance.
Which leaves us with this final provocative question. We've decoded its mechanism, and we've synchronized its celestial clock to the Younger Dryas. So, is this ancient Cypress Cylinder merely a dead language that traditional linguists are going to debate forever? Or is it a multidimensional time capsule instrument just waiting for the next precessional cycle? I really hope this explainer has left you as completely fascinated as I am by the incredible secrets encoded in our ancient past. Keep questioning the geometry of history, and I'll see you next time.